Apostolic Fathers come apologists. Apologists means people who defend faith. During the time after the first century, there were more people opposing Christianity's teaching and all that. So our apostolic fathers had to defend the church by arguments, different type of arguments. They were arguing, opposite people were arguing against revelation and against God and against religion and so on. Then our faithful believers have to argue and prove. So they are the people who are called, those who do this are called apostolic fathers. How do the apostolic fathers understand revelation? Now the opposition came mainly from the Greek civilization, Greek culture. In the Greek civilization, there are different philosophical thinking: Stoics, Platonians, Aristotles, and so on. You have heard them and you have studied about them. Now, the apologists had to fight at that time against the Stoics. Stoics have the concept of logos. We have got also in our Bible, John speaks of the logos. It is taken from the Stoic philosophy. Then there is the concept of pneuma. These are taken from the Stoic philosophers. Especially John takes it over. So John's teaching about God and revelation and so on makes use of these terms. In the beginning was the word, logos. Logos is the word. In the beginning was the word, and the word was God, and so on. So he has taken up their languages in order to prove to them that the teaching that Christ has given is the right teaching. According to their own terminologies, things go. So things can be interpreted in that way. Then comes Justin, who died in 125. He holds that God generated the logos by his power and wanted logos to be the agent of creation. God's direct creation is mediated through logos. According to the Greek understanding, logos is a minor god. The major god, the divine, could not dirty his hands with the material creation of the world and so on. God is something other than the material realities. And the material realities have to be created. Then God did not want to spoil his hands, dirty his hands. That is the understanding of the Stoics. Therefore, he created a mediator God, and this mediator God is logos, according to the Greek understanding. So, Justin holds, according to this understanding, that God generated the logos by his power and will to be the agent of creation. This logos is the revealer and savior. So, interpretation to the understanding of incarnation in and through the categories of the Greek, that is here now taking place. So, Justin, John, Saint John the Baptist, Saint John the Evangelist, and the other apostolic fathers, apologist fathers have used this category. The revealing activity of the logos is spread through the whole of humanity. In every human being, there is a small logos spermaticos. Logos spermaticos means small, little. Logos. Spermaticos, you have heard the word sperm, seed. home. You are familiar with the word, I am sure. Small seed of logos, spermatikos. Logos, spermatikos is logos, the seed of the logos. So small little logos that every human being has. That is the understanding of justice. And because this logos is there in every human being, we can understand. The word logos has two meanings. One is word, the other one is reason. So, logos spermatikos, which is within us, makes us capable of understanding God. And that has got the very deep implications for Indians and people of other cultures. Because as the European missionaries taught, things are not so as they thought. They thought that all the non-Europeans are pagans, all the people in India and other countries are all unknown to God and not knowing God, not recognizing God, and they are all condemned to hell, pagans. But Justin says every human being has got a logos spermatikos. So every human being, Indians and people of other cultures, they have in their heart the ability to know God to some extent. Logos spermatikos, reasoning. And logos is, according to John, God incarnate. So logos spermatikos is in that way present in all humanity. So that makes a difference. It is no more true that the other people are pagans and condemnable and they are all meant for devil, which was the teaching for the missionaries. But the earliest fathers have said things which goes against this kind of an understanding. So logos spermatikos permits every human being to have a partial knowledge of truth. So that is his understanding of revelation. Theophilus holds that logos is capable of reaching the knowledge of the existence of God. Every human being. The author of the book of Diogenetus, you will come to know about it as we go on. Don't worry about this unknown word. The author of Diogenetus stresses the continuity between logos and the mission of the church. Logos, the Son, then the mission of the church. Church's mission is connected with the logos. Logos is revelation. Logos is giving us the understanding of God, God revealing himself. So, mission of the church is revealing of God further to the rest of the humanity. So, mission of the church. He brings logos and mission of the church together. Then we come to 200, Irenaeus, or some call him Irenaeus. Latin pronunciation is Irenaeus. The English pronunciation is generally Irenaeus. Irenaeus sees the Son as the epiphany of the Father. Epiphany is a new word. Which means self-expression. Epiphany is a Greek word. So self-expression of the Father. Father wants to reveal himself to us. As a result, there is Jesus. But Jesus reveals the Father to us. So that was the understanding of the people up till 200. Then the fathers of the church. The Greek fathers understand logos to be the source of all knowledge. So, every knowledge is because of the logos. He is the center of theology and history. He instructs and educates by revealing the Father and his designs for salvation. Revelation in this way is progressive, further and further, deeper and deeper, progressive. After Clement of Alexandria comes Origen. He died around 254. He holds that the Word is begotten by the Father and the image of the Father is manifest in him. He became flesh so that we who are in flesh may be able to see him. So see the connection. He became part of our nature, part of humanity, so that now humanity is not simple humanity, humanity is filled with the divine. He became part of our nature. So we are able to see the divine. So that is the teaching of Origen. And the doctrine of Christ comes to us through the apostles and the teaching of the church. That is his understanding. Revelation takes place through the doctrine of the teaching of the church, teaching of the apostles and the church. Then another father called Athanasius. According to him, there are three sources of knowledge. First is the testimony of creation. Second is the interior testimony. And third is the Logos. You remember our types of revelation, we have just discussed similar idea. So, God speaks through Logos and manifests and communicates his plan of salvation. So that is the understanding of the Father. Cyril of Alexandria. Word is the door to the knowledge of the Father. Truth is proposed in the First Testament through figures and in the New Testament through Christ. So what is the consequence of revelation is truth. Or let us say in this period after the apostolic fathers there has been a slight change of emphasis. The emphasis is now in terms of knowledge. Knowledge is in terms of propositional revelation. You understand, remember what I taught in the earlier. Revelation of the propositional. So revelation is knowledge of things about God. So the emphasis comes slowly in this direction. Knowledge, truth is proposed in Old Testament. Truth is proposed. So truth becomes important as revelation. Truth is proposed in the Old Testament through different figures. In Christ, the truth is taught in clear precepts. What is precepts? Precepts are statements. Statements of truth. So revelation is related to truths. But I told you, originally revelation is personal relationship. Personalistic understanding is now missing here. Slowly it is missing. If further as we go on, this personalistic understanding will disappear altogether and the objective understanding, propositional understanding will become the only understanding of faith. So that we will see. So already the beginning is taking place. I told you history is development and also regression, progression and regression. So in this way a kind of regression is taking place. The reason may be the context of the time where the Greek knowledge and the Greek culture is spread. And in order to discuss and dialogue with them, our fathers used their categories and make them understand that in their own terms we are correct. But in the process, our own thinking is contaminated by the Greek culture or Greek thinking. And therefore, the personalistic character of revelation and faith slowly disappears, and the truth character, there is a Greek understanding of revelation of truth, logos, formatikos, reasoning. With reasoning we understand. So all these ideas become more important than the original God's idea of God's self-revelation. Self-revelation is a matter of relationship. So in the place of self-revelation, truth became. Now, in the conventional understanding of our people, faith means understanding of truths. Today, this understanding is rejected. But we have, you all come from the background in your village where truth is understood, faith is understood in terms of truth. Revelation is understood as in terms of truth. God reveals truths, right? But in the Bible, God reveals Himself. To reveal Himself is to be related to the others. To reveal truth has nothing to do with the personal relationship. So this change in the understanding has taken place in the course of history because of the context. And then we come to another father, Tertullian. He speaks of two natural ways of knowing God, knowledge. Knowledge becomes important here. The cosmos and one's soul giving testimony. So that is the way of understanding and knowing God. So knowledge of God becomes for him emphasized. For Augustine, he died in 430, so we are progressing through the history. For Augustine, knowledge of God is only through Christ, the only Redeemer. And he comes to recognize the original reality of the revelation and faith. He says revelation is not a communication of abstract truth. Our people in the village think that revelation means revelation of truth. But Augustine had already said, in the 5th century, revelation is not a communication of abstract truth. Revelation is bound up with time and it takes place in history. So revelation is not truths but development in history. In history, revelation takes place. So our idea, the Old Testament idea of God revealing Himself in history, is renewed in Augustine, or it comes back in the person of Augustine. So in between, the idea had sunk. God lost his, had disappeared. It comes back. Then in the Middle Ages, Bonaventure, that is in the 13th century, Bonaventure considers revelation as an illumination of the mind. It brings certitude. So, here Bonaventure is not speaking of God's self-revelation and God building up a personal relationship, but he speaks of illumination of the mind, because of which we become certain about the truth. It brings certitude. So again the emphasis is in the direction opposite to the biblical understanding in the Old and New Testament. Thomas Aquinas defines revelation very clearly as salvific operation through which God furnishes man with all the truths necessary and useful for salvation. So the object of revelation is truths necessary for salvation. If you have this truth, you will be saved. So the whole distance they have traveled from the original biblical idea becomes clear, and it goes on until the last century. The ideas were in this way so far away from the biblical idea of revelation. Then we come to the 19th century. Revelation is presented primarily as communication of supernatural truths, inaccessible to natural reason. And faith is the acceptance of the revealed truth. So you see the importance so far away from the person of God revealing himself to truths. And all the other things are gone. Personalistic relationship is totally absent. Revelation is communication of supernatural truths through natural reason, and faith is the acceptance of truth. So that is what is happening in our villages. Faith means acceptance of truth. Do you have faith? Yes. I believe in God. I believe in Christ. I believe in the Trinity. I believe in the church. All those we say in the creed. All these are different truths. You accept the truth and you become a Christian. That is enough. But we saw, according to God's plan, acceptance of truth is not the important thing, but collaboration with Him in a personal relationship for the transformation of the world as His reign, as His kingdom. That is God's plan in the Old Testament, so that salvation may be realized in history through change and transformation of a situation of slavery into a situation of freedom, from situation of unhealth to situation of health, situation of sadness and misery, situation of joy, and there is communion among human beings, and finally communion with human beings and God, and communion with humans, God, and the cosmos. That is God's purpose. So all that rich understanding which is founded in the Bible is in the history lost sight of because of the particular situation. But then now we have come back to the richness of the Bible. In the recent past, in the 19th century, 20th century and so on, there has been such a lot of researches into the Bible. The whole of Palestine and Israel, that area has been excavated, the archaeological study has been done, and many literature of the period has been discovered, and they come to know about the thinking of the people, understanding of the people, the culture of that time. And so when they know about the culture of that time, they are able to understand the Old Testament and the New Testament in a new light. Previously, they understood all these in the background of their own culture. So, as I showed you, the context, the culture is the context. Culture determines, or the context determines, what do you understand. So they understood things in the wrong culture for some time, and it went on like that. In the 20th century, as a result of better understanding of ancient cultures through archaeology and studies in literature and so on, we come to understand the culture of the Jewish time, and in that background we began to understand the meaning of Revelation. So the biblical idea of Revelation establishes itself in the course of time in the 20th century. You see the difference? So the history moves in one way, finally history comes the right way. Ups and downs are there in history. Now, in understanding Revelation in the present way, you may have some little bit of difficulty because the old ways are still in your mind, and you are used to it, and you are Christians, and you know your faith is so important for you, so that all that you have believed in those sense in the background of the culture of non-biblical people, those understandings are wrong understandings, somehow to some extent, or inaccurate understanding. Those understandings have to be plucked out of your heart, like weeds are plucked out of the paddy fields, so that the true paddy can come up. So all these are weeds, you have to pluck it out. But it is not easy. When you pluck out a weed, the earth comes out also along with the roots. So when you pluck it out, you will also feel from your heart little bit of things, like the roots capture a bit of your heart and you feel pain. That is possible. But then that cannot be avoided because of the historical nature of Revelation, the historical nature of humans. We are all conditioned by history, and therefore, so in the 19th century also, The whole thing was about revealed truths and understanding of revealed truths. The change comes in the 20th century. And the whole change is accepted in the Vatican II. So Vatican II, that is in the 20th century, middle of 20th century. So in the 20th century, Catholic theology emphasized the transcendental nature and the doctrinal character of the salvific aspect of revelation. In the 20th century, the salvific character, not only the doctrinal character. Doctrinal character is doctrine. That is proposition. Propositional nature of revelation and faith. It is accepted. But the salvific character is also understood. After a long time, for the first time in the 19th century. So, both objective propositional truth and the aspect of testimony are emphasized. Prominent theologians agree that Christ established among us revelation in person, not revelation of truths, personalistic. Christ is revelation in person. So all revelation is to be personalistically understood, not in terms of exclusively truths. Now we understand both are to be there. Now, personalistic understanding will create among us ideas, values. Those will have to be written down in sentences. So propositions will be there. So propositional understanding is there in our understanding of faith. But not just propositional understanding. Personalistic understanding plus propositional understanding. Until 19th century, the personalistic understanding was denied, almost invisible. Today we have both. So you are becoming richer when you plant the new seeds of new ideas into your hearts. And it will help you live Christian life better. Yeah. So that is with regard to the advantage of history developing in this way and developing a history retrieving the past. One of the slogans of Vatican II was go to the sources. So when we speak about faith and revelation and all that, when we speak about Christianity, we go back to the person of Christ. That is the source. Go back to him. And that was done with the help of archaeology, with the help of literature, science and scientific experience, which was possible only in the 19th century. The 10th century and 9th century and all this was not possible. Scientific development took place in the 19th century mainly, and therefore it was possible in the 19th and 20th century to go back to the sources, and the Vatican demanded that we go back to the sources, to the origins. At the origin, things are much clearer and pure than at the bottom, like in the case of a river. For example, the Ganges originates in the Himalayas, pure water, right? But when it comes to Benares, it's all dirty. So if you want to know what is pure Ganges, you have to go to the origin. So what is Catholic faith, Christian faith? You have to go to the origin, in the sources in the time of Jesus and the culture of that time and the Bible against that culture, in the background of that culture. Then you understand. That was possible only in the 19th century and 20th century, and therefore now we have come back to a better understanding of faith and revelation. So, in the 20th century, all the theologians stress that the historical as well as interpersonal character of revelation is important. Historical and interpersonal, not only intellectual. That is the difference. Then we come to the revelation of the documents of the church. Council of Trent insists on the objective propositional character of what has been revealed. Council of Trent took place in the 14th century. So at that time, objective propositional character of truth, not personalistic, individual, interpersonal character. You can understand that. Then Vatican I. Vatican I also is a council that took place. The teaching of the church is there, And according to those teachings, the 19th century theology is accepted. And they hold on communication of supernatural truths as revelation. Communication of supernatural truths. And faith is acceptance of the revealed truths. Vatican I. So you see, our village people are still in the position of Vatican I. Vatican II has not yet happened for them. Vatican II has to happen through you. You have to preach the new understanding of faith and revelation, the whole theology. The whole theology that we do in Vijnanagalayam is Vatican, post-Vatican theology. There will be a lot of corrections of the old things. You may have to sometimes feel disturbance of the change, but still be certain that you are going in the better way, you are going in the way of better Christian life and better spiritual life. To get rid of the old is not forgetting the old, but growing over the old. That is what you are called.